I get hit in the back of the head. And then I look and the car we're getting into, the window gets smashed out. And then I hear the van, and I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Troy Story, a podcast for the Color City, where we explore the history and people of Troy, New York, one conversation at a time. I'm your host, John Salka, and I am very, very fortunate. I say this at the start of every episode. I'm very fortunate to have this next guest, but I really do feel very fortunate and appreciative to have the next guest here. He's a man that I don't think needs an introduction, but he's going to get one anyway for the purposes of our audience. He's a longtime radio DJ, concert promoter, booking agent, singer-songwriter, guitar player, television show host and producer, and he doesn't like to say this, but Troy Core legend, Mr. Ralph Renna. Ralph, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. I told you not to say legend. I'm humble, man. Thank you. That was good. And, thank you. There's just so many things I've done, and now it's like one thing, and it's just radio now. I'm like, I always spread myself too thin because I was doing all those things at one time. It's a lot. It's a lot. And you need to put focus on one and move from there. That's what I'm doing now. I learned from those mistakes.
Before all of these different things that you've done in your life, before everything else, you were just a boy from Troy. So
I was just a Troy boy.
Yeah.
So let's kind of South Troy boy.
Yeah, let's take it all the way back to the start. Just kind of start your story. What was childhood like growing up in the Color City?
It was tough. It was middle class. It was lower class. It was lots of good food because you had Puerto Ricans, Italians, Irish, Polish, Armenian, Japanese, Black, all different types of cultures that all lived in the same neighborhoods, and they were all cool. So at an early age, I just never knew nothing but South Troy, and Troy being multicultural and universal right there off the rip, friends with everybody. And it was a very patriotic town. And I remember that. And I thought my grandfather was the coolest guy in the world because he was in the Flag Day parade carrying the flag because he was a vet, and he was proud of that. And I was proud of that. That's the Troy I'm from. And then I was, I remember Troy becoming like a ghost town. It became a ghost town. And then it started to slowly come back through the 2000s and the past 25 years. It's a beautiful city again. All of it. Even they're rebuilding the north and the south ends too, But I moved to Troy country because that's what us Troy boys do, because we've had enough of Troy. So you either go to Brunswick, you go to Scotticoke, you go to Averill Park, Wine and Skill, West Sand Lake border where I am right now. So, yeah, I'm proud of it. And then there's Troy Core, which is on top of that.
Talk a little bit about sort of the neighborhood you grew up in. What do you remember about being a kid, going to school, friends you had at the time?
Well, I remember going to a school 12. My earliest memory probably was back to kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Really good memories because I remember going home going, Mom, I don't want to go to that school anymore. And I remember the first day of school that I felt that thought was there was this dude, Chris, and you never called him Chrissy the midget. Okay. You never did because he was the toughest kid in school and he was a dwarf. He was a smaller person, but you never say that word. And someone said it to him one day, and this kid was like 6 feet tall, and we were in first grade. And Chrissy went over there and knocked the guy out. And I was like, this is crazy. And then I've seen a lot of fights. It was a very violent school. We're talking 1975, 76. I don't know if I went there for preschool, but kindergarten first. And then I moved on to a Catholic school, St. Joseph's. And that was cool. And I lived down the street. And I lived in 3 different locations in South Troy until my family moved up on the hill where my whole family was. So I was all over Troy. And then I went and lived downtown Troy above the Hudson Duster next to the El Dorado. And then bounced around Troy apartments, and then finally found my house out in Wynantskill years later, So, but I go to Troy every day. It's 11 minutes that way. That way? Yeah, that way.
Did you go swimming at the South Troy pool a lot when you
I
were a
went
kid?
swimming. I don't remember. I think maybe once when I was real young. And but if you're from South Troy, back then it was like, you go swimming at the South Troy pool. Because I had cousins that had pools and stuff. So, but yeah, it's back and it's nice and it's clean. And I was almost went swimming one day there a couple months, or excuse me, it was last summer, I think. They had it up and running again. That was cool. I think it's great. The canal, though, we used to walk through the canal and go fishing because I lived in South Troy, right at Canal, 4th and Canal, Firehouse Canal, in a place called Pigtown. And Pigtown is where we partied and got arrested and got in trouble and got kicked out of by all the people up there. And then there was a bridge where we all hung out, and we called ourselves the Brothers of the Brush. And we were like 11. We didn't do nothing. We didn't start any trouble, but we were the Brothers of the Brush. I wrote a song about it 2 years ago. Use that for the title. Being stupid kids from Troy. That's all the song's about.
You were getting arrested at 11 years old?
Nah, never, dude. No, I didn't get arrested till like 29. That was it. That's when I got clean and sober. So,
in your childhood, when did you start like coming to music? What was your introduction to music as a kid, and how did that sort of interface with what eventually became sort of that phase in your life playing music in bands?
my Uncle Tom encouraged me for my interest in music. And I can remember the age time. So I'm going to say almost 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. We would all hang at my grandmother's on Sundays. Cousins would go outside and play football. I would go down in the basement, set up all my grandmother's baking tins, pots and pans, put them all around a stereo, pop the 8-track in, and Rare Earth was playing. And I had these huge knitting needles, and I would just bang on the drums. And I would play the drums, and I would break the stereo, broke everything. And my uncle was like, "This is awesome. You're great. You're so good at that. Your timing," like, encouraged me. And I was real young, and he was sincere. He wasn't busting my balls. It was like, "Oh, good little Ralphie." He was really meant it. And that was it from there. I always wanted to play music, and then DJ first, then music. And that was it. It was that moment.
So how did you go from playing pots and pans in your uncle's basement to picking up a guitar or starting to write lyrics and fronting a band? Like what was your first band?
My other uncle played guitar, and I said, "Uncle Vito, I want a guitar." And he bought me a guitar, and he signed me up for lessons. But I was like 8 at the time. I was young. So I didn't stick with it. Guitar, I don't even remember if it made its way back into his hands. And then it wasn't until I was 8, 21 years old, 22, a friend bought me an acoustic guitar. And that's a year or two later. I got into politics of contraband and started playing bass. So it was like, I could play 2 strings. I don't even need to put the other 2 on the bass. And I did. And that's where that happened. So it was like radio, band, radio. It's like back and forth, taking on all those things you brought up in the beginning. That's why I said it was too much. Now just play a little music and radio.
Let me just take a step back then, because we touched on the radio stuff. Talk about your radio career, how that sort of interfaced in with your interest in music and playing music.
I didn't have a college fund. I didn't have a loan. I didn't have anything but my name, and I signed up the dotted line to Hudson Valley Community College. And I wasn't sure. I didn't want to go. Maybe I was a little bit afraid. I don't know. But I knew I wanted to be a DJ. And I'm like looking to be, and I don't even remember if the radio station was functioning then there that runs on the campus. So I signed up, and I was there 2 days. I'm like, this isn't me. So I went to the office, and they're like, "Well, if you back out today, you can get 80% of your money back." And I just gave them $2,000 of my graduate from high school. Wow, I got $2,000. No, I don't. Right. And that's how it was. So I got it back. And I think the tuition for radio school was $1,500. I made put a few bucks in my pocket and went to radio school. And the second week of radio school, I started DJing on a 25,000 watt radio station. It happened that quick. Like everything else in my strange life happened quick. Just ask and then you'll know.
And what station was that?
WVCR was 88.3 WVCR, head banging, fist pounding powers, where I started high voltage. You now hear high voltage on WABY. It's where I did the Hangover Helper. It's there. We played all the music, all the rock, alternative, indie, post-hardcore, hardcore, punk, thrash, anything from 1990 to 2010. I lived it. I was there. I was opening the records. I was putting them on for the first time, the vinyl, the CD, cassette tapes, local bands. It's when the local music thing started. So Capitol Underground started then. It was just called Local Tracks. It's different. And a bunch of DJs did it. It wasn't just one guy like me, you know? So that started. And then a few years later, I started playing bass and politics of contraband, and I was in the hardcore scene, full force. And then came the drugs.
And I was, that took me totally by surprise.
You wanted the see, when you ask for the Troy story from me, you're going to get the true Troy story, the true to Troy story, and the true to me story. So yeah, and I got a little off track, I would say, for about 4 years. Took a break and had to straighten out my bullshit, and came back swinging again with radio and Last Call and all that.
So to take a step back for that time you were working initially, starting that
running
radio.
out of breath taking these steps back.
Yeah, I know. Well, we're moving quick.
Let's step back. Go ahead.
Yeah, you've got a long story, and I feel like I don't want to skip over some of the good stuff because
go ahead.
I think because you've had such a long career in radio, and you have a very clear, vivid memory, obviously, of your own life and a lot of these key moments that have happened. What was that initial stint on radio and opening albums and records and putting them on the air? What were some of the bands that kind of jumped out at you at the time, or the way that music was changing? Like, do you remember anything specific about that time, about absolutely. The industry?
Right when it happened, there was 3 specific occasions. Most people learn about rock and roll and Elvis to Slayer, right? You learn the timeline of it all and who was in between. I was a jumper. I went from Kiss to Beatles, Eagles, Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, classic rock, hair metal. And then around 18, 19, all my friends, 17 or 18, younger, I was still in high school. My younger friends were, I'll call them the Troycore guys. They were the original Troycore guys, and it was never a thing. It was never, hey, we're going to call our music Troycore, or we're going to put Troycore on everything, or Troycore's a gang. No, it was none of that. All Troycore was a way of saying these are guys from Troy, and there's the music that they're making. And it was kind of a, let's put it on a vest. And it was like 4 guys, and they're still some of my best friends. And a lot of them guys don't fly the flag as high for Troycore than I do, because I wasn't one of those guys. They were the ones who turned me on. So my point being is, I was coming from classic rock and hair metal, and now I'm listening to Sick of It All, Biohazard, Breakdown, Bad Brains, Misfits. And I didn't really particularly like all these bands, but some of them stuck on me. So what I'm saying here, to get to my point, I didn't know about Slayer, Overkill, Testament, Metallica, little bit, but I was hearing in my head Pink Floyd, listening to my Journey, listening to my Led Zeppelin, and then my friends would come and take my CDs and throw them out the window on my tapes and put their Sheer Terror tape in. And I'm like, drove by, the car ran over my cassette. So I just kept going. And that's how it was. It was forced on me. And then I went to my first show. And I went to that first show, and I want to say it was the band Scream, that old band Dave Grohl was in. In fact, the dude James lives locally now here in West Sand Lake. And that was when I was like, wow, hardcore. I don't feel like I'm in the nosebleeds. I'm getting sweat on and spit on.
Totally.
And that was one occasion. So it was the hardcore scene there. coming out of rock and roll and going right in, and then going, okay, here's Black Flag, here's Circle Jerks, here's all this. Then I had to go back and learn punk, learn that. There's one occasion. Second would be grunge. All right. We can end it there, right? We can end. I don't have to get descriptive on that.
No, I think that kind
because
of,
I was
I think,
coming out of hair metal and now grunge has taken over and it just ruined a lot of people's careers. And I was there for it. And I was one of them. I'm like, this sucks. This is awesome. Right? This really sucks. I really like this. Now I like it again, listening to Rat. Now I like it again, listening to Great White. But, and then there was one more occasion. There was the explosion of metal and hardcore, of being accepted, not just kind of pushed to midnight. Now Hatebreed is a household name, Ozfest, Killswitch Engage, all these bands that, I was lucky to share the stage with, now are just too big to even play the small club or play in the Glens Falls Firehouse with All That Remains. So those were those three occasions where everything changed over those decades.
so you mentioned Last Call earlier, and you've talked about all these different bands.
Should we step back a little bit further?
No, again, there's so many like little mini chapters in here, but I think what's interesting, if people know you and listen to your music and hear the way that you sing, your voice is obviously very recognizable. You have your timbre and your pitch.
I used to. I don't know if I could do that anymore, man.
Well, I'm just, even if you hear your later stuff, whether it's the Black John Wayne or some of the other things where it's more, you've got acoustic sounds and it's singing. But if people listen to
that was the start of going, I've been singing hardcore and metal since I started music, but I want to really sing acoustic and I want to sing rock and roll. And I eventually accomplished that last year. So it took a long while to get there.
But that's the point I'm making, is that if people hear your stuff with Last Call, I don't know if people would recognize.
Talk to me. They'd be like, "Who's that lunatic?" Well, all you're doing is talking a lot of shit. Shut your mouth. You have nothing to do with it. Take the time of reaching out could be the life you save. No respect, no results from all they gave.
But where did that come from, in that intensity to decide that you were going to front like you were getting into the music, your friends were exposing you to Scream and other punk bands and hardcore bands. What led you to decide I'm going to front a hardcore band and I'm going to scream?
Because I wanted to play more. I felt that because I was jumping on the mic a few times when I was playing bass with Politics, and I was like, oh, I can really, if I just sang instead of played, I could just write music for the band and let them make it awesome. As Booney would say, you write songs, but I make them better. That's when I wanted to do it. Well, Politics wasn't able to play. It was a joke band. It was a friend band. Let's get together on Sunday, go to breakfast, drink, make music, then go play hardcore shows. And, babies came along and I wasn't having a baby. I didn't want a baby. I wanted to play power and play hardcore. So we tried. Booney had Dying Breed going and wanted to try something different. Him and I got together and started pulling people in. And that started in 1996. So Politics was like, of Contraband was 93, still playing a little bit. And then those two bands overlapped a little bit. And why I wanted to do it, because I had some shit to get out. And the first 5 songs that we wrote and the first show that we ever played in Riggs Pub over in Waterford, just across the tracks, right down the road from McDonald's. You know where that is. But anyway, it was great. I just remember playing and people digging the music and lots of moshing going on, and they never heard us. We didn't have a demo out. And the first reaction we ever got was amazing. And then I think just there were some people in the crowd that actually had practice tapes. So there's people singing along. That's when I was like, okay. And it really got better from there. It got worse, then it got really good and better, and to the best it ever got. And that's where I met you. And we started playing shows together with Last Call. And yeah, that's what did it for me. And it was the reaction. It was the energy. I didn't know that I was thriving on a bipolar disorder. And that's the serious part too. I think a lot of my anger and energy didn't come from drug addiction, didn't come from people hurting me. It was me hurting myself. And that anger came out in Last Call's music, better and more convincing than anything musically I've ever done. But I'm not that angry anymore. So if I were to jump on stage with Last Call, it wouldn't be the best Last Call show you've ever seen. And everyone used to come to our shows and say that was the best Last Call show I ever seen. I said, you said that the past 3 shows. He goes, they get better. We did it. I want to leave it right there. I have nothing to prove with hardcore. I still go to hardcore shows. I don't mosh. But that's that for that. Yeah, it was, the anger was real. It was real. It was my stories it was my therapy. I don't need a therapist. I am my own therapist. It's called this pen and paper. Make sense? And you know that being a songwriter.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, being
a riff and a feeling can make you wow. And you did both.
Yeah, for sure.
You get it. So you get that.
And I would say even to the artwork, I remember, I don't remember how long ago I read this, but maybe it was something that you had posted. It might have been on MySpace. I can't even remember how far back I'm going here, but about the Last Call artwork and how they represented some of the lyrics. I remember it was like a lot of clocks and a lot of needles, or at least maybe one of the albums was. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. So you have it right. I have it tattooed on my arm. I don't know if you can see it. It's the clock with 2 needles pointing at it just a little after 4 a.m. Last Call, which was the bars. They would kick you out by 4 a.m. That was my partying days. And a lot of the Last Call songs from early on were about current drug addiction between friends. Pretty obvious. And then it was just real. It was just about jobs, sick of working bullshit jobs. Real. When are you going to fall in love? But it's hardcore. I was writing songs from the heart, from every aspect of my life that were fucking me up at the time, mentally. And then I started doing drugs and more drugs and drinking, and life turned into a hurricane of disaster. Really, it's made for the behind the music part of your show today. But I'm not going to focus on that because I'm 24 years sober this June. And then when I got sober, Last Call got even bigger and better real quick in like 3 years. And now we were the band bringing out 300-400 people, and the local bands wanted to play with us because we drew that crowd. And I guess we were pretty fucking good too. And I still listen to that and go, wow, that's kind of corny, but this part's all awesome. And I was listening to it. And my wife, that's cool that she got to see us play the last time we played. And that was 2012. We did one last show for our original guitarist that passed away. And he was alive at the time, and he was there. And there's a big pile of money. Pay your doctor bills. And then we never, ever went back. And I just left breakfast with Booney, Aaron, the guitarist, my friend of 30 years, and with Tom of Wartime Manor, both two who I wrote the most songs with in my life. Booney with Last Call, and then Tom with A Trailer Park Moonlight, my acoustic act. He wrote Last Call lyrics, sang on my stuff, always been my best music buddy, knowledge recording nerd, down to buy the computer. Here's the mic you got to buy. Like, just with those two guys. And he eventually handed me, when I was out of the game for a while, he handed me a song and said, here's a song. It's about preparing for the end. I said, okay. He goes, just write what you want. So I did. And I put the mic up and screamed it away at my desk after not doing it for like 6-7 years at the time. And that whole first beginning of the song is all me. And then he comes in, and then I come in, and he cuts me out. And when they went in the studio and we actually recorded it for real, I was the lead vocalist on a Wartime Manor song, and that was awesome. So I have a lot of those good relationships writing, music with my old friends.
I remember seeing Last Call for the first time. It was at what was then Northern Lights.
Yep.
It was you. It was Brick by Brick, Mike Lenny's band. I think it may be one of the earlier iterations.
The first version of Brick by Brick, yep.
And you were opening for Anthrax, the John Bush fronted Anthrax. So
That
this
was the
would.
first time. Yeah, we played with the Belladonna the second time.
Oh, nice. Okay.
That
Um,
was that was pretty amazing. Because I remember John Bush and Scott Ian and all those guys being nice to us. It's all I gave a fuck about. I didn't care about any of it. Well, that's the first thing with me. It's like, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Hey, I remember you. I met you. And I did meet Scott Ian. He doesn't remember meeting me, but he remembered the situation. I know all of us, Troy, Albany, Saratoga Winters, we all went to New York City to see Biohazard and Slayer and Machine Head. And the guys from Stigmata, Bittner, and Mike Maney introduced me to Scott Ian, and we hung out in a circle. I think it was the Roseland, and I met the guy from Death. He was walking by. It was such an amazing evening. But where were we going?
I was really going with that moment.
How they were. They were awesome. They were awesome.
But was that became a commonplace thing? I mean, that last call would frequently open for some of the larger acts that would come through the area. You said you at least opened for Anthrax twice.
I'll be honest. I did a lot of things to see when you have, I think I had my mission then was more so, what can I do for my band? Right.
Sure.
So with everything, all the connections I had around, I try to utilize for the band. So I'd be like, hey, Northern Lights, you need flyers. Let me do some graphic design. Let me promote for you. And let me see the schedule early. Oh, what do you got? Anthrax coming? Can we open? Yep. I didn't get a paycheck. It was more of a trade agreement, which then I was like, all right, we're playing here too much. There's this band, that band, 30. So then I started booking. Instead of being like a hog with Last Call, Last Call needed a rehearsal spot. Well, the rehearsal spot in Menands, that's still there, that Mother Judge owned, and Sten still owns, I believe. But needed a guy who could run the place and do it. Sure, give me a free. We're writing a record. I need a rehearsal spot. Boom. I didn't get paid for that. So everybody thinks I'm lining my guitar cases with $100 bills. I'm not, because I did a lot of shit for free and on trade. That's how I learned. Grassroots. You help me, I'll help you. And it helped because we opened for Prong, Anthrax, Andrew WK, Dragon Force, Atreyu. We opened for Anthrax 1, John. Then Belladonna came back. Then we opened up for, of course, Skinless and Recon and all those bands, and Candiria and OTEP, American Head Charge. So the shows I put Last Call on weren't specifically, then we'd play the hardcore shows. And I started to notice we did better as a hardcore metal band on rock shows. While I was screaming my head off and everyone else had beautiful melodic vocals. I wanted to do that. I wanted to sing like that. I didn't have the confidence till I figured it out about 8 years ago.
Right, to embrace your own voice.
No auto-tune, right. Embrace your own voice. You're going to go out of key, no auto-tune. Let the mistakes stay and just figure it out. Keep releasing shit. And that's all you got to do.
And I think a lot of singers feel
we
that
were
way.
all screamers, grunters, or growlers, right?
Yeah.
Even always had melody.
Even my earlier stuff, I remember trying to be like, oh, I'm going to want to sound like James Hetfield or sound like Dave Mustaine. And then it took me a long time to realize, like, you're contorting your voice to sound like somebody else. It's not really you, you know?
My scream came out of me because of 4 people. Billy, I'm going to say his last name. I think it was Graziati of Biohazard. Lou Kohler of Sick of It All. And those guys mainly, and Phil Anselmo from Pantera. And of course, Metallica. All 4 of those voices I admired about all those singers were not that they were great singers. They were good for hardcore and metal, and their timing was impeccable. And the way they didn't just sing to the mosh beat, swing your arms and kick yourself in the head. I don't like that kind of shit. I don't. But then there's some bands that do that very well because they take it to another level, and that's called keeping it simple. But when you keep it too simple, done. So I always liked that scat. And then I always liked rock and roll. So the melodies and phrases for Last Call all became kind of melodic yells. That makes sense.
which is a learned skill in itself to be able to pitch your screams. It is. No, it is. And to be able to do it is very difficult.
Then I noticed there was like people during the 2000s training Lou Kohler of Sick of It All how to use his voice. Same lady helped Phil Pantera because they got to go on the road day after day and day and do that. I'm just playing 3 shows a month, 1 show a month. What did that matter? But when you go day in and day out, you got to condition your voice and train it and do warm ups. And 2 lines of Coke was a warm up for me. And that was the worst thing a singer could ever do. When I stopped doing drugs, I realized that being sober were the best performances of my life.
You mentioned this just before. You booked a lot of bands and you built a lot of relationships, and you booked a lot of local bands. And I think a lot of people in the capital region.
We're going to take 20 steps back. I went to school at that St. Joseph's I told you in South Troy. Second school, left school 12 because I was like, this place is crazy. Later on, my friends started booking shows at the South Troy Community Center, which sat right next to St. Joseph's Church behind the school I went to. So I went to roller skating parties there, played basketball there, played pinball there, ping pong. It was a community center. It was everything a kid can do and stay off the streets. And it was great for our community. It was awesome. And we started having hardcore shows there when we turned teenagers.
Oh, that's awesome.
So the first few shows were like Shelter, Biohazard, Cro-Mags, and Sheer Terror. And then I got a hold of Typo Negative and Life Agony. And I was like, my friend's band needs a show, and I'm sick of them not being able to get shows. I'll book it. And that was early on in radio. So I took that connection and I booked it. And I paid them $800 a pizza and a big bottle of vodka.
You are,
and that was my first experience. No, I'm not joking. So
at the South Troy Community
South Troy Community, all those shows happened there. Biohazard, Sick of It All, Shelter, 108, All Out Wars, first few shows, all these big bands. And they were all my friends booking them, but I only booked a couple local ones, and then I booked that big one. It was like my second or third one. And I took 3 local bands and I let them open up for Typo. And Typo sent me a demo and said, we're bringing a band with us. And that was Life Agony. And then a year later, Typo Negative dropped their record, Bloody Kisses. My name was on it. What the fuck did I just do? I played them on the radio. I booked them. I paid them $800. I couldn't believe that my name was on the record. And then Life Agony's record come out. My name was on the record. And then the next record come out. My name was on it. So my secret key to success was just get your name on someone's big record. That was it. Because I was popular for that. More than radio, more than for being in the bands, more for booking. People thought that was so cool.
And Mike Valeni
became friends with all those guys too, you know?
Yeah, Mike Valeni mentioned that, about building professional relationships, and maybe that comes later, but
it comes with music and what we've done. And Mike, I'm going to say Mike has been right by my side with all this, with remembering the Typo Negative and the Life of Agony. Pantera, you asked earlier about what were those times, that era, Typo Negative, Life of Agony, and Pantera being a huge part of my personal life, working at Saratoga Winters. Where's Dime sleeping? He's up there. He's fine. He's snoring, cleaning the club at 5 a.m, going home. And those dudes are sleeping in the rafters. It's real. Jason Bittner talked about it. Mike will talk about it. Vegas will talk about it. We all drank and got drunk with those guys. And after a while, Salam and Jabbar had a picture of Phil and Salam on the wall. And they was like their home. I always hoped that I would be able to run into Phil again someday and go, do you remember Salam and Jabbar? He's going to be like, what? He's going to remember. He won't forget that place.
R.I.P. Saratoga Winters, by the way.
Our Saratoga Winters. I drove by the other day. I was going to take a picture of just a sign, but it's all trees and it's a mess.
Local bands and all the local bands that you had booked over the years, obviously going much further back, putting local bands on with groups like Typo Negative and Life of Agony.
That was 92, 93. I think I did that show. Yeah.
But you were doing that for a while. I mean, you booked my college
because that's
bands.
what my hardcore friends taught me. I didn't know how to book concerts, festivals, shows. I learned from going to my first few shows and going, okay, get the room. And then, oh, well, yeah, it's a room. You got to pay for a room rental. Okay. Right. And then you tell the bands you could pay them and you have the money in your pocket. And then you have a PA. I figured it out real quick. And then I went and I saw it was being done. I can do this. I'm on the radio. I talk to Roadrunner Records twice a week. Hey, can I have Typo Negatives management? Yes, boom. And that's how it started. My point I said 30 steps ago, if you don't ask, you'll never know. And it started at that moment, that plan. Learn and go and throw it against the wall. And if it works, I'm fucking a success. And it was successful. A lot of those things were very successful because I had super duper South Troy and North Troy core support, Wine and Skill, Brunswick, Sickaway, everybody, Albany, Clifton Park had branched out, and that's what the scene made it. I didn't make it. I just handed them a flyer that said, I have some good bands. Come see them play. There's no Facebook, there's no MySpace. And you got on the street and did it. And it worked.
What were some of the contemporary bands of that era, the local bands, the Troycore bands? You mentioned a few, but can you just give me a couple names and memories?
I have to give you the Troycore tree. Then we'll just start with Direct Attack, Final Terror, and Cranial Abuse, and Dead End. And there's a few more too. Okay. They all branched off into Flat Broke, into Stigmata, Harbinger, Dying Breed, Flat Broke, Dead End, Politics of Contraband. All those members overlapped, new bands over the years, a few different members from other bands. So that stuck out for me was the beginning of it was Direct Attack, even though I wasn't in the mix a lot as I was that next generation. So I've been through maybe 4 generations of Troycore, but I would have to say Dead End and Flat Broke and Stigmata. That was my core. That was my beginning right there. Cranial Abuse. That stuck out because there was nothing like that.
If we fast forward a little bit, let's just say like the 2000s. I remember, like I said, 2004, I saw you open, Last Call open for Anthrax, and you were booking a lot of shows, and that's where I met you that night. And then eventually we connected again over MySpace. We keep coming back to MySpace.
But I interviewed you then on yes. The Edge when I was on the Edge. All right, cool.
Yep, 1049.
I remember specifically playing some shows with you at Putnam Place, which was the back room of a pool hall, Backstreet Billiards at the time. Right?
Right.
Did you play some shows up there with us?
I don't know if I played the first time around. Probably the second band I did.
Okay.
You did a lot of stuff at the first show you booked, facilitated us through Mike was Hudson Duster in downtown Troy. That was 2000.
Yes, Duster. That was a whole. That was the time where I just got out of rehab. I'm clean and I'm focused. Last Call just put our first record out, and that became our home base. Us. Brick by Brick was a death metal band called Detriment, which was Wartime Manor and singer from Skinless and this guy and that guy, and just a good mix. Death metal. There was a bunch of new bands. That was the third wave. So you got that early Stigmata or early Cranial Abuse, Dead End, Final Terror, Direct Attack. Then you got the Wartime Politics, Dying Breed, Burning Human, Stigmata. Then you got Last Calls coming up, Brick by Brick. And then you got Dying Breed, Dead and Dying. Each band, each I guess decade, there was a new set of bands made up by all those older members. Sometimes the ones from way back didn't play for 20 years and then started playing. Then you got the Final Sleep, and you got all this, and RIP to Jeff Andrews. You got the Final Sleep that's made up of Withstand and Dying Breed and of course Jeff on vocals and guitar and Burning Human. There was 4 decades of Troycore that I think I was involved in. This is my 5th decade. I'm not involved. 4th decade. Then I'm just playing an acoustic once in a while.
I take it back. You said don't call you a Troycore legend, but you're like a Troycore historian.
A Troycore historian.
Yeah, you're a Troycore historian.
I wrote. Someone laughed at me because I don't take it seriously. Like, let's fight about it. Ever. It's something that started as simple as those 4 friends who were the original Troycore guys, who were the ones that if I didn't know them, I wouldn't have known shit about it. And
Sure.
I give them credit. I think they were just like, leave it alone. No, man, be proud of it. Fly that flag, man. Troycore. People in Japan say Troycore. So, you know me, I promote them on the radio. I'm going to market that. I looked at it the other day and was like, why does everybody get so mad when I use it? I think that because I marketed Troycore a little too much to where it should have just been a known thing, you know, but we're all proud of it. Every fucking one of them, even the ones that won't admit it, you know.
Yeah, I think if everybody gets an opportunity to talk about the story, it's kind of
It's
like
not mine though. It's ours.
it's
They may
ours.
have started it, but it's ours. And if others want to celebrate it, then let them celebrate. And if others don't, then who cares? You know, be proud of it. That's my whole thing. Be proud of where you're from. And that's the way Troy was. It still is, man. It's got a different vibe, but I'm older now. I'm not 25. I'm almost 50. 5.
Do you have an archive of stuff from the different eras, like whether it's your
Not
radio stuff or
enough.
music?
Oh, dude, I had an autographed Nirvana CD. Here, take this. You want a CD? It'll never be huge.
Ah, shit.
Yeah, it's suicidal posters. Pantera Christmas cards from Pantera. Yeah, my ex-girlfriend, I love you. Here, you can have it. Just like thinking of all the things over the years. Peter Steele, I gave him. I went to shake his hand. He's like, "Hey, Ralph, what's up?" He was dating a friend of mine at the time from Typo Negative. Misfits are playing. Peter Steele and his girlfriend are in the balcony. I lean over to shake his hand and I spill wine all over him. He's like, "It's okay, Ralph. Don't cry over spilled wine." And he gives me, I go, he had a pin on. So I try to distract him. I'm like, "Oh, where'd you get that? Do you guys selling those?" He goes, "What? This?" And he gives me the pin. And it was like the gear that was on the mechanical gear that was on one of their CDs, the
Right.
artwork. And it was big metal iron thing. And he gave it to me. And then my girlfriend, I'm like, "Here, you can have it." And I was just like, all these things I should have kept. "Here, you can have it, John." Stone Temple Pilots autograph posters, just all things that the people I met along the way, I gave away because it meant more for me to see someone else be like, "Wow, it's the greatest thing ever." And I'm just like, "Yeah, whatever. It's an autographed Nirvana CD. Who are they?" It was vinyl. It was like before it hit. It got sent to me. I gave it to somebody, and 2 weeks later, they were the biggest band in the world. So no, I don't have a lot of that stuff. I have some last call stuff, some flyers, pictures, posters. We used to have bins and bins and bins of stuff. More of the other guys in the band collected that and saved. Bob Riley, you need to have Bob Riley on your show and just have him have cameras all over the room. He's probably got dolls and original Misfits dolls and he's the collector. He's the pack rat of the Troycore family. I'm the historian. Bob is definitely the museum of Troycore. Every flyer from every show he's ever played, he's got it. He's been on hardcore interviews where he would showcase that stuff. It's crazy. No, not enough. I always gave it all away because I felt like it was there. I was giving it to me to give away to a listener. So that's the way I felt. Stupid. So stupid.
But it's nice that you have some of the last call stuff. I mean, because yes, the shows that you went to and the big bands and the pins from Peter Steele and the signed Nirvana vinyl. Yeah, that's cool. But like your personal history, you're able to go back and look at those things and be able to say, right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was, I just started gathering, like someone handed me a folder of old flyers. And I'm like, I was right around COVID too. I'm like, let me put all of these on my page and just create right back to the Metallica poster from RPI, all the way through that era. And some of the shows I only heard my cool punk rock and hardcore friends talk about, but most of them I either was there, booked, part of promoting, radio, festivals, or knew about them and remember them. And it's just a memory, man. And it's cool that digitally we could have that stuff. So I think I have more digital memories than I do actual physical, and it sucks. Do you save concert tickets?
I do. Yeah, I
Right.
save concerts. Well, when you used to be able to get stubs, you don't
So
really
I
get them
have
anymore.
this shadow box frame that's about that thick, and it's the top's open and it says tickets on the front and it's glass, and you drop your concert tickets in there. Well, I've saved a chunk, and Cass and I have taken both of ours and put them in there. And every time we go to a concert, we throw it in there. Some concerts we don't make, we throw it in there. I think the last one I put in there was my ticket to Graceland.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How many tickets you think you got in there?
What? In
In the
there?
box? In the box, yeah.
Thousands. She went to a lot
Thousands.
of shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
She went to Berkeley and she went to a lot of shows in Boston. I had free radio tickets from everything from Little Feat to Def Leppard to Slayer and Overkill. And I went to everything throughout the 90s and 2000s. About 2010s when I was like sick of going to shows. I'm burnt out. Sick of playing. I'm sick of burnout. I'm sick of coming here 3 nights a week. It's when you finally realize you want to get your own home and settle down and stop living in an apartment. You want more than that out of life, and that's what we wanted, was a home. And now I have a kingdom. acres acres of trees falling down on my fences.
Come back around to music after taking a little bit of a break, and we talked to Mike Valeni previously
Yeah.
about the Extreme Music Awards.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
That must have been pretty exciting to reconnect and dive back in.
because Mike and I, since day one, either on a band level, radio band level, or bar band level, friend, cook, live there, everything. I always said to him, we need to do something big together. And we never did it. We just still hung, still went to shows, still talked.
Right.
But it wasn't until this that I said, this is what I've been talking about. He's like, what? I'm like, I said, we need to do something together again. You know what? We didn't force it. It was an idea he had. We all liked it. We all made it happen. And now it's this year, the third year. It will be, it's never going to be perfect, but we put on one hell of an award show. And the idea is amazing. And then the 5 people partnered on it are pretty big players. Art Fredette, Experience Monthly, Radio X, Mike Valeni, Black and Blue, Brick by Brick. The resume is probably a couple years longer than mine. Brendan Manley, I mean, writer for many magazines and in the hardcore punk scene and 518 scene and that Fuzz and Rock show. So we got five things that people are paying attention to. And you put the 5 of us together and this is what comes out. And you got a sold out show and people are getting handed awards by their heroes. So the looks on these guys' faces, it's like me giving away that fucking autographed Pantera Christmas card, Peter Steele pin. It's the look on their faces. That's how I felt then, giving all my free shit away.
Yeah.
But now it's like, we don't make any money off this fucking thing. We don't. I think the first year we threw a couple $100, but we spent every dime of it to fly in Slayer, to bring in those bands. And this year, the lineup is going to be better and bigger bands. And what we did was we came out of our comfort zone. So instead of having, Biohazard, Slayer, Exodus, now it's, I said, let's see if Kill Switch is available. No one's confirmed. Let's see if Testament's available. Let's see if Jamie Jost is available. Let's see if Rob Halford from Judas Priest will come over now, because me and Fuzz interviewed him a few years ago. So it's my boy. But still, they're connections and they're things I've just done. I mean, it's been 35 years in radio, and I just interviewed Rob Halford for the first time. That was amazing.
I was going to ask you for any teases, but it sounds like you just gave us a couple.
No, those are my ideas. We don't have. Valeni showed me a piece of paper the other day, and it's his little list, his little dream list, and a couple of those names are on there, but I only saw one confirmed, and it's a good one. So we don't have that together, because we will have that once we know who is going to be available. It's the best time of the year to do it because everybody's on break. So that's why we do it then. I just chose a Rensselaer County location for the radio station. we're all working remotely right now. So that's happening. So I think I've done music my whole life. Radio I did in little spurts. I've been handed a pretty big opportunity here to just run it and use my knowledge of what we've been talking about for an hour, and put it on the air. Some of these stories I've already kind of talked about a little bit. They were in a book. I decided I better just start talking about this on the radio now. These are the memories from those days. Makes it real.
Where can people listen to you? Where can they catch the show? Can they find you online?
Okay, it's simple. 939waby.com. And that's 93.9. You can listen to Slayer in AM. Did you know this? This is 900 AM. This is the old WABY. It's the old oldie station. My boss bought it, started a station, translates it over to 93.9 FM. So it's 93.9 WABY FM. I'm on every day, Monday through Friday, drive time, where I've never been on radio, like my choice for what I've been on all the other shifts, right? Morning, all of it. This is fun. And I do it here. And we have a sister station down in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is 93.7 WVLZ. And I'm there every 3 day, 3 to 7. Obviously, 10, 11, 12 in the morning, I'm pre-recording the shows for that day. And I went national. And everybody's like, oh, I'm national. Well, you have a podcast. We're all national when we go online. I can go Facebook Live. I'm national. Look at me. So it cracks me up. But to actually have a radio show on in a town, and I'm doing it from here, and I got to travel down there for some events, and I was able to bring Capital Underground there and start it there, learn their scene, because the internet, I'm a troll. I'm going to find some bands, and I did, and I posted in a few groups because I learned that a long time ago. Just do it. Just try, and you can do it. Excuse me. Dog's barking. She must want me to take her for a walk.
Well, listen, let's wrap it here. I am so appreciative that you took the time out of your day on a Saturday to
well, maybe I don't
me.
feel like going yet. Okay. Maybe I had one more story I wanted to tell you about.
Go ahead.
Can I?
Yes.
I'm just playing with you. But
Close
seriously,
with something good. Close with something
I'm
good.
like, I hope he asks me about Metallica, because Bittner told the story and Valerny told the story, but I have the best story.
Let's hear it.
Ready? I was really nervous to go to that show. Really, really nervous, because I had only been to one or two little hardcore shows that I explained and been to concerts, but my concerts experience is at RPI Fieldhouse, where Bon Jovi, Rat, Cinderella, Tesla, all of those types of bands, right? Shake It and all that hair metal. And then I went to see Metallica, and it's a rock show. And I went, and to see people scream Metallica at the top of their lungs, and to see the entire RPI Fieldhouse be a mosh pit, not 100 people in a basement for a hardcore show. Now it was real. Now it was real for me. And then by the end of that show, I was like, this was the best goddamn thing I've ever seen. And I was so blown away. And I was like, I walked out the front doors, and the wind, it was October. Was it October? Am I right? When the hell was it? It was a fall night or a spring night?
It was March 15th.
March
15th.
It was March. Okay, so it was spring. So I walked out, and the cold air hit me, and then boom, I get hit in the back of the head. And then I look, and the car we're getting into, the window gets smashed out. And then I hear the van, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I looked all over the ground, and people were throwing D batteries everywhere. Huge batteries, back to Ray. That's my memory of Metallica. I was scared shitless to go. I went, I made it out alive, and it was almost pelted to death with batteries at the end of the night. I got to go, John.
Good way to leave it.
I wanted you to ask me that.
Good way to leave it.
Yep.
Thanks, Ralph.
Yeah, dude, that was fun.